Y'all, this has been my best reading month so far in 2025, and not just quantity. I read 16 books, but quality as well. Let's get into it. Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shannon and this is Shannon's Book Nook. And I am happy to say that June was a roaring success. So after filming my mid-year freakout tag, I kind of realized that I had been pushing myself to read books that I may have thought I was interested in. And just when I got into it, I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't vibing with it. There are a lot of 3-star rated books in the first half of my year for 2025. And so I kind of realized I'm kind of done pushing myself to read books that I'm just not enjoying and just finishing it to say I read it. So there, for the next half of the year, there will probably be a lot more DNFs. Which it is what it is at this point, because if I feel like it is not going to be a 4 or a 5-star rated book and I'm not really having a good time with it, I am not going to push myself to finish it. So June, let's talk about some stats real quick. Okay. So I read 16 total books. I had 1 physical book, 4 ebooks, and 11 mixed media. I had 0 audiobooks, which is abnormal. Like normally I have at least 1 or 2 where I just read strictly the audiobook, but I did have significantly more mixed media because I either own a copy of the book or I have it on my Kindle and I listened to the audiobook as well. So I did a tandem read, okay? I had 2 DNFs. I read 4 ARCs. I read a total of 5,938 pages. Who am I? Who is this girl? Seriously. Then the time that I read in audiobooks was 113 hours, 8 minutes and 22 seconds. My average rating was significantly higher than the last few months with a 3.87. Wow. My most read genre was still romance. I'm a romance girly through and through. And I had 5 books with representation, whether that's mental health, plus size, LGBTQIA, BIPOC, whatever it is, disability. I had 5 books with representation. My 25 and 2025, I've read a total of 14 books now. And then to keep me on track, my 2025 yearly goal, I have read a total of 69 books, with my goal being 100. So those are my stats. Let's talk about what I read this month. All right, let's start with my DNFs. First up, I have Leave the Girls Behind by Jacqueline Bublitz. This was an Atria arc that was sent to me by the publisher, and I'm going to be quite honest, I was not having a good time with this. The characters felt very one-dimensional. The plot was kind of choppy, and I was having a very hard time staying invested and focused, and I just kept reaching for other books. I did get about 50% into this, and I couldn't push through anymore. So unfortunately, this was a DNF. I will be adding this to the pile for the Instagram giveaway that I have planned that will be coming up in the next week or 2. The other book that I ended up DNFing was Camp Damascus by Chuck Tingle, which I'm very sad about. This is a horror. It's listed, I think, as an adult horror, but it felt very YA. And I was so bored. I was incredibly bored. I DNF'd about 45% of the way in, and I couldn't push through anymore. It was just starting to pick up, and it had gotten to the point where I was like, do I continue? Do I not? You know what? I'm not enjoying myself, so I'm going to DNF, because even if I did start to enjoy myself for the second half of the book, it's probably not going to get more than a 3-star at this point, because I struggled through so much of the first part of the book. So my new theory, or my new prerogative in life, is if it's going to get a 3-star and I'm not having a good time, DNF it. So this was the first victim to that. Yeah. All right, I have an unusual one for this month because I actually read a nonfiction, and I'm not much of a nonfiction girly, so when I do read it, I don't know how to rate it. I don't rate memoirs or biographies, stuff like that, because that's somebody's like life story and it feels weird giving that a rating. But this is like a legit nonfiction book, and it's called Erasing History: How Fascists Rewrite the Past to Control the Future by Jason Stanley. This was kind of scary to read, not gonna lie. not gonna lie. While I was reading / listening to this book, there were quite a few things that I highlighted because it's like history is repeating itself. And that's kind of scary. Not kind of, it is. This one was sent to me by the publisher, finished it, had a really good time with it, but it is unrated just because it's a nonfiction book. It was eye-opening to say the least. And as a teacher, as an educator, knowing that what is in this book, they say they come for education, educating the youth first. That's true. Book banning is out of control in the US. Rewriting history, excluding things out of the history books, whitewashing history. It's just, it starts in the schools and the education, and as a teacher, that's terrifying. So, highly recommend reading this book. Next up, I have a reread. I don't do a lot of these, but I felt like rereading this trilogy for some reason. And I am glad I did because I had such a good time with it. The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. Like I said, this is a reread, but I read it when I was in like high school. So it's been a very long time. Now I will say, I didn't re-rate it. I kept the original rating, which was a 5-star. But I'm not counting it as a 5-star in my month because it's a reread. So I really enjoyed getting back into this and reading about Katniss and Gale and Peeta and Primrose and just all of them getting back into this world. I hope to read Catching Fire in July, but we'll see if that happens. But the reason I'm rereading this trilogy is because we had Sunrise on the Reaping come out recently. I think that's the name of the newest book, which is Haymitch's story. And I wanted to reread this before I reread that, or before I read that. So that's why I'm rereading this trilogy. My first 3-star rated book was very disappointing. I was so upset about this one. Don't Let Him In by Lisa Joel. I was so bored. And I think, so Lisa Joel is one of my favorite thriller authors. However, I have learned in the month of June, and I knew this previously, but since starting this channel, I've been reading the synopsis of books. When I do a haul, when I do my TBR, I've gotten to the point where I'm probably not going to be doing that anymore because of this book and another book that follows. So the synopsis gives the entire plot, the entire thing away. Whoever is doing the synopses for these books needs to stop. Sorry. You're giving way too much information. Even though there's not, especially on this one copy that I have, there's not a lot of information being given, but it's just enough, at least for my brain, to already have theories and figure it out. So this one was just kind of a dud for me, unfortunately. And this one was sent to me by the publisher. And I was so bored. And I figured everything out in like the first 18% of the book. So I was so disappointed. My next 3-star rated book was another disappointment. Britt Marie Was Here by Friedrich Bachmann. I've read one other book by him and then I paused another one. And I'm going to be kind of honest, I had a good time with Anxious People, but I'm not so sure that his writing style is for me. If you like character-driven books, check these out because these are definitely character-driven. I'm more of I need a mix. I need the plot to be moving. I need something, there has to be moving parts and we're going somewhere. But Britt Marie has OCD. And she has gotten to a point in her life where she is terrified, because she's recently divorced. She is terrified of dying and nobody finding her until there's a terrible stench. And she's terrified that this stench will be a inconvenience to her neighbors. So she starts to coach a local soccer team. Does she have any soccer experience coaching? No, she doesn't. It is hilarious, but at the same time, like, I was so mixed on and unsure on how to rate this book because there was just a lot of things that I was having to slug through, but I love the character Britt Marie. So this got 3 stars for me. Next, I have Drifter by Janine Infante Bosco. I picked this book up because I was kind of feeling like I wanted to read a motorcycle club romance, something dirty and gritty, and this, unfortunately, did not deliver. This is more of a story of, because we don't get the motorcycle club background, that we don't get a lot of that story in this book, because something that happens very early on in the book leaves the female main character, she's been assaulted, and so there are trigger warnings. And the way the author handles that and the aftermath, the PTSD, the trauma that she's going through, was very well done. But because of this thing that happens in the very beginning of the book, so we have it's happened, this has just happened, and then we get flashbacks, and we get everything that has happened up until this point. But it's coming. I don't know. I didn't. The beginning, the momentum was good, but that pace did not keep up. So I struggled to stay engaged, for sure. This one got 3 stars. The next 3-star is my book club pick, which was Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. Again, I read the synopsis and I figured out what was happening. So we have Ellie Mack, who, she was the perfect daughter, but she goes missing. And some years later, the mother, I forgot her name, Laurel, meets a guy. And this guy's daughter, Poppy, is, I think, 9 years old. I don't even know if she's that old. But Poppy is a child and reminds Laurel of Ellie so much. I will say the end of the book got me, and the epilogue with the little journal entry, it did get me. So I was torn. This could maybe be a 3.5, but I did end up giving it a 3. So if you do want more information on my more thoughts of Then She Was Gone and this next one that I'm going to talk about, it is in a vlog that I did where I roll the dice and it picks a prompt for me or a book title. So more thoughts are in that vlog. If you want to go check it out, I will be sure to try to link it. If I remember to do that, link it in the description. So the next book that I gave 3 stars to was A King So Cold by Ella Fields. This is a fantasy romance book. The queen is not a nice person. She's not a nice person. And this book is told with, okay, this is happening now, but then we have flashbacks to, I think 9 years ago. I don't remember how long ago it was, but the shift between times was a little jarring at first. And I'm like, I'm so confused on what's happening. Because it starts out really early and it's like, who is who? Who's with who? It was very, very confusing at first. But and I almost DNF'd it. But after about 100 pages, I did start getting into it and I had a good time. But the pace kind of slows down and then picks back up again. There is something in this book that I thought was kind of cringe, especially when we find out towards the end, but that's a little bit of a spoiler. So I'm not going to talk about that here. But I did give it 3 stars, and I do have The Stray Prince, which is book 2, this is a duology, and I will be hopefully reading that in July. I will say that the synopsis for A King So Cold says that there's no cliffhanger, which I do not agree with. I do believe there is a little bit of a cliffhanger. It's not like there's a huge, oh my God, I have to pick up the next book cliffhanger. It's a cliffhanger where there are so many unanswered questions in the first book that you're like, what happened? What just happened? So yes, I do believe there is a cliffhanger in this book. The next book is Blood Moon by Gillian Graves. Now, I did give this a 3.5. This is a novella, and I just kind of picked it up on a whim. And honestly, this maybe could be, I don't know, it's a high 3.5, so it could be maybe a 4-star maybe? I don't know. But it didn't feel quite, when I compare it to my other 4 stars, it doesn't quite feel like a 4-star. So that's why I gave it the 3.5. But we have the main female character. She is a witch. And the main male character, by the way, guys, I am terrible at names unless I'm absolutely obsessed. And even then, if it's a standalone and it's not like a continuous series, I'm going to have a hard time remembering the characters' names. So, but the main male character, he is a vampire. I remember his name because it's very like vampire-esque. His name is Vladimir. And the female's name just came to me, Hazel, because the shop that she owns is called the Witch Hazel. So I thought that was kind of funny. But so Hazel owns the Witch Hazel, and this new club has opened up across the street, which is Vlad's shop. And so she's upset because you have two shops that are basically two buildings competing for customers' attention and money. And so she's upset with that. And come to find out, Vlad had really not much to do with it. He wants to open up his own business, and he's kind of just going along with the investors that have fronted the money for him and he's being basically forced to run this club. So I had such a good time with this book. It's really short. It's only like 113 pages. So if you're looking for a really short, steamy, spicy read, it's very insta-lovey, so keep that in mind. All right, now we're into my 4 stars. And to keep this video from being super long, I'm going to try and be a little quicker. Okay, so we have Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. We have Skylar and Weston. Absolutely love the Rose Hill series by Elsie Silver. But, you know, Weston, he's like the perfect son, the perfect dad, the perfect boyfriend. He saves Skylar from grizzly bears. In some ways, he's almost too perfect. So it made it seem like it wasn't, I mean, I know this is fictional, but there's men written by women, right? You know, they're perfect, but sometimes they're too perfect. But Skylar is a celebrity. She's a singer, and she is just in Rose Hill to take a break. She wants to go work with Ford, who is, you know, opening up his own record studio. She just needs a break from her manipulative manager and who else? There's 2 people and her dad, I guess. Like, her agent and her manager are very manipulative and terrible to her. So yeah, I had a good time with Wild Eyes. The audiobook actually sings the songs that are included in Wild Eyes. So I highly suggest checking out the audiobook. My next 4-star is Never Love a Highlander by Maya Banks. So this is a little bit of a flashback because I used to love reading Maya Banks. I don't know if I've read this one before. I can't remember because I was in like high school. No, I was probably in college when I was reading this. So I don't know if this is a reread or not because I couldn't remember. But we have Kaylin McCabe, who is he's going to be a clan leader. And then we have Riona, who is going to be his wife. So this is very, you know, Scottish, very like gives Outlander vibes. And I had a good time with it. All right, this next one, I did read this series out of order. Don't come at me, but The Bourbon Boys by Victoria Wilder. I read Bourbon and Secrets first, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But Bourbon and Lies is the first book, and it features Grant and Lainey. So Lainey is in WITSEC. She is in the witness protection unofficially, like it's not documented. But B, who is a agent, a marshal, I believe, she is protecting Lainey and sends her to Fiasco, Kentucky. And most people, nobody really knows why Lainey has come into town. But their chemistry, Grant and Lainey's, off the charts. Had a really good time with this book. However, I will say that I enjoyed Bourbon and Secrets more because of the tropes that were involved in that one. But I still really had a good time with Lainey and Grant's story. This is a romantic suspense, so there is some, you know, crime going on in the background that we're trying to figure out what's happening. So I will keep that in mind. My last 4-star rated book was The Love Haters by Catherine Center. I am a Catherine Center girly. I have read pretty much, not all of her books, but most of her books. This one was not my favorite, and I did get an ARC of this one from NetGalley. We have Katie and Hutch. So Katie is like a videographer. She makes videos for the company that she is hired to work for, but she also makes a day in the life videos on her YouTube channel. So, and she likes to feature like everyday heroes. Well, a guy that she works with Cole is like, hey, I need you to go to Florida. I think in Miami. I could be wrong. You're going to go to Florida and you're going to interview this guy named Hutch. He is a everyday hero. He works for the Coast Guard, but we also need to do a promo for the company. The Coast Guard has hired this company to do a promo to feature the Coast Guard. But while you're there, do a day in a life on this guy as well. Hutch is kind of grumpy and standoffish and really doesn't want to have anything to do with the promo. He doesn't want to answer the questions. She's trying to make it exciting. She's trying to make it, all these things, but he is just not giving her anything to work with. And come to find out, there's obviously some back history. And then Katie also does this video she signs up to do this video knowing she can't swim. He is a rescue swimmer. He jumps out of helicopters to save people in the water. My girl, you can't swim? Okay. And before she does her videos, before they get started, she has to do a training where she is basically put in a helicopter. It's like a simulator, put in a helicopter, and it flips upside down in the water, and she has to get out. Yeah. Now let's talk about my 4.5. I was being very nitpicky on these. Okay, there's a reason for each one not getting 5 stars. Okay. The first one, it was just a feeling. It just didn't feel quite like a 5 star. That was the only reason. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Bourbon and Secrets by Victoria Wilder. This features Lincoln, who is a single dad. I am in my single dad romance era. Okay, I am obsessed. I need more Rex for the single dad romances. And then we have Faye Calloway, who in the beginning of the book, we see a scene with these two and there is a lot of tension and not in a good way. Like something bad has happened. We just don't know what. And Faye is basically forced to flee the town, a fiasco. Well, then fast forward to present day, she is returning to Fiasco as a private investigator. And she is also a burlesque dancer. And these covers are hot. Okay, both of these characters. I have a girl crush on Faye, and oh my God, Lincoln is hot. Okay, these books, I'm obsessed with Bourbon and Secrets. And the two girls, Lily and I can't remember the other girl's name right now. I'm drawing a blank, but the two young girls, Lincoln's daughters, are so cute. I love them so much. Highly recommend that series, and I hope to read Bourbon and Proof in July. There are a lot of books on my July TBR if you haven't seen that video yet. My next 4.5 star rated book was Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. This is a diver and swimmer romance, and it is spicy. This is another one that was featured in my Roll the Dice vlog. So was Bourbon and Secrets. So if you want more information, go to that vlog because you'll see all of my thoughts on this book. But the reason this didn't get quite a 5 star was there was one scene in particular where Lucas, the main male character, so let me preface this by saying Lucas and Scarlett they both have a desire to kind of explore the world of kink, and more specifically the power play, okay, where you hand over all the power to one person and there's a dom and sub relationship, okay. There's one point in the book where Lucas, in my opinion, almost crosses a line. So that was why it didn't get quite a 5 star, but I ate this book up. I finished it in like 24 hours. I finished it very quickly. And my last 4.5 star rated book was Caught Up by Nevessa Allen, which was, it's not surprising because I gave Lights Out 5 stars. And the audiobooks for these books are top tier, okay? You gotta listen to the audiobooks for these books, Lights Out and Caught Up. Teddy Hamilton is the male narrator, and oh, I love him so much. But we have Nico, or Junior, and he's the male main character, and he works for his father, who is a mobster, okay? We meet Nico in Lights Out because he is Allie's cousin. Lauren, she is a cam girl. She's a S worker, and she is not ashamed of her job. She actually loves what she does. She's also a part owner in a play club, which gets featured quite a bit in the book. That's a lot of fun. So this is a very spicy book. It's also dark, okay? Junior is basically a stalker, okay? So it's a dark romance, but it's also got some comedy in it. Definitely spicy, but one scene in particular, and like I said, I'm being nitpicky. I'm being very nitpicky for my 5 stars. That's why this got me a 4.5. The confessional scene just felt like it was in there to be taboo and shocking. I don't feel like that was really necessary. Plus, I was on my way home from church, so it was like, nope, 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 no, 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 no. And the last book I'm going to talk about is my 1 5-star book, Fates and Furies by Helen Shoira. This is book 3 in the Legends of Thesmar series, and I am obsessed with Wilder and Thea. And we have a lot more characters that come into play in this book. I will say, if you are planning on checking out this book, the reading order, I feel like, needs to be talked about more, okay? If you're going to read The Legends of Thesmar, in my opinion, to get the most emotional impact, you need to read Blood and Steel first, Vows and Ruins second, then read the prequel, Slaying the Shadow Prince, okay? Then go into Fates and Furies, and then lastly, the Storms and Swords book, which is the last book. That's going to give you the most emotional impact, because there are people that you meet in some of those other books in this book, and you need to read those other books first. Okay. There you have it. That's what I read in the month of June. A lot of books, and it was a pretty good month as well. I have to say, my 4 stars, 4.5, and my 5-star did not disappoint. I did have a few 3 stars in there, but you know what? Those 4 and 4.5 and 5-star rated books turned it around for me. So this is some of what I read in the month of June. Of course, I have some ebooks in there as well. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you stuck around for this long, don't forget to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to. I will leave the link to my mid-year freakout and my July TBR and that roll the dice video in the description, so you can check that out. And I will see you next time. Bye.